Lesson 2.5, identifying linear pairs, vertical angles, and adjacent angles. These are the three terminologies you need to know throughout the whole course of geometry, and sometimes they show up in other math classes as well. The first one is, what is a vertical angle? Vertical angles are formed when there's two lines that intersect, so they make some kind of X shape. And what happens is the angles that are opposite from one another on that X are going to be the same angle measure, so we call them congruent. So in this diagram, angles 1 and 3 would be congruent to each other. So let's say this is 35 degrees. Angle 3 would also be 35 degrees. That happens every time we have lines crossing each other. We could also say that angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. So let's say they're 150 degrees. 2 and 4 would be the same measure, both 150 degrees. Okay, so those are formed by an X. Linear pair. Linear means they make a straight line. A pair means two angles. Sometimes you can have more than two. But what's happening is they are on a line. So we've got this straight line here, and then I've got a ray splitting this line into two angles, 2 and 1. The sum of those measures should always equal 180. So a linear pair are two angles that are side by side on a straight line to make 180 when you add them together. But they couldn't just be separate. We're not talking about any supplementary angles, like if I drew an angle here and I drew one here, totally making it up, but let's say this is like 85 and this is 95 degrees. They're not touching. So even though they make 180 degrees, they have to be side by side on the same line. That's important. Otherwise, we would just say those are two supplementary angles. They add to make 180, but they're not side by side. And then the last one is adjacent. Adjacent means you're touching something. So these angles share this common side. It doesn't matter what the degree is. It does not matter. But what matters is you've got this angle 1 and angle 2 sharing a common vertex, which is the center point. And then they share this common side. So angle 1 could be called angle ABD. And then angle 2 could be called angle CBD. See how they have that same vertex, which is their middle letter, and then they share this common point D. So adjacent is their side by side to be any measure they want. Okay, so could we say that every linear pair are also adjacent? Yes, because they're side by side. Number 1, we're using this picture for questions A through F. It says, which angle number represents angle UYV? UYV would be U to, this is all Y here, to V. So what angle is that? 6. Okay, so it can't be 4, it can't be 5, because 5 would be angle UY out to W, and 4 would have to be like WYT. So the rays come together at that angle. Part B, which angle number represents an angle vertical to UYV? Vertical to UYV. So remember, vertical means that it has to be across from. That was our first one. So vertical to this angle 6. Well, that would be the one. If I look at the X here, that's across from it. That would be angle 4. That means angle 4 and 6 would be congruent and have the same angle measure. Part C, which angle number represents the linear pair of angle UYV? Linear pair. And it's got to be a number, so there's only one option here. That would be angle 5. If it was a number here at Y, we could say that as well. But 6 and 5 are making 180 degrees, and they are side by side. D says, which angle number represents an angle adjacent, to angle UYV? Adjacent to UYV has to be side by side. That would also be angle 5. So again, Y would count, but since it's not a number, we can't use it. And part E says, if the measure of UYV was 93 degrees, what is the measure of angle TYV? W. T's all the way up here. T, Y, W is this angle. Well, we already said that angles 4 and 6 are vertical, so they'll have the same measurement. So it will be 93 degrees as well. And then on part F, if the measure of angle UYV is 93 degrees, then what is the measure of UYW? So this guy. Well, we said these are a linear pair. They should make 180. So we would say 180 degrees minus the 93 degrees will leave me with this angle, which is 87 degrees.